Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Cliff Weiner. I'm president of POA. First on our agenda is the pledge to the flag and remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders and military personnel. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. First on the agenda is a reading of the minutes from our January meeting, which was on January 17th by our Secretary, Reb Benson.
All right, thanks, Cliff. Good evening, everybody. So in the minutes here, what we try and do is sort of go through them fairly quickly. So most of the items that we cover on a monthly basis, we'll skip over those as far as call to order and announcements that we usually have associated with it. And then I usually just sort of cover the highlights of any questions and from our speaker last month. So in this case, we did have a question that a resident asked about his medical alert button. Could it be tied to the cell phone towers and then to the community watch versus separate firm that responds if his button is activated? The answer was Mr. Wolf, who was here last month and talked about Community Watch, said that he could not make that happen, would have to inquire with the local government on that capability. We also handed out a POA Hall of Fame award to Bill Sikora, a longtime resident of the Villages, District 2 representative, and on the board for a number of years, who had passed away. We had our speaker was Patrick Walsh from Covanta Energy. Some of the highlights of his discussion and his presentation were that Covanta is the largest energy waste facility operator in North America with 48 facilities in the U.S., Canada, and Hawaii. And they also have plants in Europe and the United Kingdom. There are 10 facilities in Florida, more than any other state, with the local one, Covanta Lake, which opened in 1991, is in Okahumpka, that serves the Villages now. The process is that the waste is brought directly to the facility, unloaded in the tipping room, then through a storage pit and mixing area where unwanted items are removed, then into 2 combustion units where 2,000 degree heat is used to turn the material into steam and ash in a closed loop system. They include a state-of-the-art pollution control system using lime and scrubbers, which are monitored via an automated system control center. The benefits: steam is converted to electricity, about 14.5 megawatts per hour, which is currently being sold to Winter Park. This is what's done at Covanta Lake. They also recycle ferrous and non-ferrous materials, about 60 pounds per ton of ash. And the inert ash is reused at landfills for waste cover, with one Florida plant using the ash as a base on road improvement projects. Covanta strives to be good stewards of the environment within the community. 99.98% of their emissions is basically water vapor, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. They have a minimal methane emission, methane having the most impact on the ozone layer. The Villages entered into a contract with waste disposal with Covanta in October 2020 when they saw that this was a better carbon footprint and best cost method for dealing with our waste. Previous way was recycling items went to Tampa. That market collapsed to where it became an expense versus income to do recycling, and the trash went to a Wildwood transfer station and then was trucked 160 miles to a landfill in Georgia. Questions that were asked, some key ones were like, can Covanta Lake handle increased Villager growth? Yes, they have a growth curve set up. Assume electricity generated is sold, and why not to the Villages? Answer, it is sold to Winter Park via Duke Energy based on a market value and an index-based formula. When purchase power agreement expires in 2024, they hope to establish agreement with the Villages, but that will require the cooperation of SECO, Duke Energy, and Seminole Electric to make that happen. What should not go into trash bags at the curb? No chemo items, electronics, batteries, and radioactive items. Feedback is provided to trash haulers when they see these items found when they're going through the review. What about hazardous waste? Air pollution systems can handle what is not covered in initial screening. Why no other recycling? Because it's not cost effective. But there is agreement with the villages that on an annual basis, a review to see if the recycling market hasn't improved to where it would be cost beneficial to reinstate curbside recycling. And the meeting adjourned about 8:47.
Thank you, Rep. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Second? Second. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you, guys. Next is our treasurer's report from our treasurer, Ash Marwa.
We had, for the month of January, we had revenue of $13,880.67. That includes dues, donations, ads. Our expenditures were $17,420.80. So for a negative cash of $3,540.13. Since this is the first month, I'll let you know that our overall budget for the whole year is $237,652. And our total operating funds stand at $150,168.09. Thank you.
I just want to say the amount that he read for our budget, the biggest part of that goes into publishing and distributing our bulletin. Probably almost $200,000 of that a year goes to that. So a lot of that's paid for by advertisers and by your dues. And while I'm talking about that, this is the last month I'm going to say this. We've been here since 1975. And our dues were $10 for all of that time. And January 1st of this year, we raised them to $15. I'm not going to say that again, but if you send me a check for $10, I'm sending it back. Our database will not allow me to enter it, so I can do nothing with the check. So if you get one back, you know why. And then you can just send me another $5 check with it, and we'll be fine. Something that I started to do 6 or 7 or 8 months is introduce any Sumter County Commissioners, Lake County Commissioners, district board members, members of any of the groups that control the villages. And I only see 3 here. In the back table is our secretary is on the AAC. So Rev, stand up, Rev. And I don't believe there's anybody else that's a superintendent. There are 2 of us here. One is Mark Hayes from District 4, and we will not be talking about any District 4 issues at this meeting, Mr. Blacker, because I am also a District 4 supervisor. And because of sunshine laws, we can't do that. As you know, our meetings are being video recorded, so I ask you, when you speak and when you ask a question, to speak clearly and loud so we can pick it up. Also, when our illustrious fire department does our presentation, please stand somewhere around here so we can get it, because we want to see your beautiful faces. You can go onto our Facebook page and see it. It'll be posted probably first thing tomorrow morning or on our website. Last month for the Covanta presentation, we had 1,200 hits online. So besides the 200 people that were sitting where you're sitting, 1,200 people watched it. It's a pretty good turnout, and that's why the POA thinks we should do the same thing with district board meetings. I had to get that in, Ken. I have another issue that I want to tell you about. There's been some issues with people that feel they're having water meter, and we asked you to send me information. Please don't say, yeah, I've had issues, and that's what it says. I need information. I need what the issue was, when it happened, because otherwise, and by the way, just so they weren't all negative. I got 5 or 6 or 7 that were really nice. They gave a lot of kudos to staff for the things that were done. but I got 200 that weren't so nice. But I need information if we can try to solve the problem, okay? I'm saying these things and my district manager is here, but my big issue is the way people are being treated by Jacobs when they call for a problem. And we'll get in more to that when we go to their meeting. If you send me stuff, give me information, please. And something that was brought here last month by Chief Wolf was a new program the Community Watch has started. It's called the CHIRP program. We have a whole bunch of them at the back table. We gave out over 300 last month. If you're out walking your dog, especially now at night, or you're just out walking or whatever, you take it, wear this. If you fall or have an accident or something, if you blow this whistle, and there's instructions on the card 3 times, I'm going to tell you, it travels. People are going to know. You're not going to be laying there and nobody helping you. The most important thing is you get help as fast as possible. We're all older. It's an older community. It's really, really, really important. There's a whole bunch of them back there. I think I brought another 300 tonight. We're not going to give all of those out, but please take one for your wife, take one for your neighbors. That's fine. They got lots of them and we'll continue to do it. How many of you guys get e-notifications? Wow, that's pretty good. Please sign up for e-notification on districtgov.org. It's probably one of the best things that you can do. And also the weekly bulletin, you can sign up to have them email you the weekly bulletin, which usually comes out at Thursday of every month. There is a ton of information in that. During hurricane season, I was getting more emails than I knew what to do with. It's important information. And we have a lot of people that live here, and I'm not quite sure how many are signed up for it, but it's probably around 10,000, I would think. How many? Well, it's definitely not enough. So please, please, please think about signing up. Go to districtgov.org. You can check all the things you want to be notified of. 1, 2, 5, or all of them. It's really, really important. I want to thank our friends at the back table. Seniors versus Crime is there. The hospital auxiliary is back there. Suncool is back there. And that's all that's there tonight. I want to ask you guys that if you belong to other clubs or groups, and I'm sure you do, we all do, we all belong to more than we should. If your club or group is looking for a speaker, POA does a couple of presentations, one about issues that are in the villages, the other is about how you can contact these fine people and start a neighborhood AED program. We have lots of information, we can get you to the right people, and we can get you started. Because that's a program that's really, really important in this community. Probably the best program that was ever started. There aren't enough of them. And how many do we have now, John? About 280? Okay, we should have 1,080. Every neighborhood should have one. But think about it. And it's one of our board members and myself will do a presentation and help you get started in the program. Okay, now it's time for our cash raffle. We give away $33 prizes. And there's a rule that if nobody claims it, it goes to the president. First number, Jerry? Okay, 4389. Okay, next number, 4481. Back, Darlene's got it. Darlene, all the way in the back. Or Bob. $4700. Where? Ash got it. Okay. Okay, next is the open forum part of the meeting where you can ask us a question. I'll take any questions except things that might pertain to what our speakers are going to talk about tonight. So if I don't get an answer, I will try and get you one. Although tonight be pretty easy because the district manager's there. So I should be able to get you an answer for anything you have. So raise your hand. Somebody with a mic will come around. No questions? He doesn't count.
Give him the mic.
Give John the mic.
Hi. We talked about at one of the village's meetings about the gates being removed at times. I would imagine the fire department or the district would make that call when they remove the gates. That's one question, and if you could address that. And the second question was they were going to put new software in, and where are we with that? Is the villages improving, not knocking down those gates and costing all that additional money? So that's the two questions. Thank you.
Well, I can answer both of those. Okay, but the software is on order, as I believe. Okay, and it was a process. It's getting a lot better than it was. So they are working on it, and I assume we have 2 or 3 more months until they cover the whole villages. There's lots of gates. And what was the first part? Oh, when the gates are... I'm sure that district staff does. Winds at 35 miles an hour plus. Gates come down. You need high winds. Okay? Anybody else? I need you here more often, Ken. It makes it easy. Mark?
I have a question. I saw somebody advertising something that you can add to your mirror, sticker or something that's going to allow these gates to open. Is this too premature for this person to be selling that? Versus now, once they put the new software, is it going to be compatible?
I was told because I asked the very same question of somebody on staff that once this process is done, they will not work. They're not authorized, but they won't work either after this is done. So anybody that's thinking of buying one, don't, because you're only going to be able to use it for a very short period of time.
Thank you. What can we expect from the new software? What is it supposed? What would it do that's not doing now?
Well, first of all, the old software that we had wouldn't take the number of gates and openings and closings that we had. It's been here for a long time. So this new software is to cover that. Lots of gates going down south of 44. So, and it was to make, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was because we were having so many issues with the gates being down so much that they decided that they needed to go in a different direction, and that's what this vendor is attempting to do.
Follow-up question. Are those gates designed to break away when your car hits them?
They are, but if you go too fast, they're going to do damage to something. Yeah, they are. They're supposed to break away. Is that right, Mr. Blacker? Okay.
I wasn't able to be here last month, but what is the proper procedure for getting rid of batteries for smoke detectors, flashlights, whatever?
Well, I believe those should go when they have the hazardous waste collection, which I believe it's Sumter County does it, I don't know, 4 times a year. Okay, I got lots of people that have lots of answers. Yeah, they just had one. Anybody else? Okay. Let me say the following before we get to our speakers. Thank you, guys. Next month, Cheryl Chestnut, who's the head of the village's regional hospital, will be here and do a presentation on the hospital. I have a meeting with her next Thursday to go over what her presentation is going to be. April, we have an audiologist who's going to talk about hearing impairment and things that you might be able to do. I look around this room and probably half of you, if not more, are wearing hearing aids. I do. So it's an important topic. May, we're going to have Dr. Joe Casper who's going to talk about proper nutrition. June is our lightning protection, where we're going to talk about lightning and A1 lightning and the Property Owners Association. are going to go in and raffle off. One person's going to win a lighting system for their house. We've done this for the last 4 years, and we're going to do it again this year. July is Bradley Arnold, and the chairman of the Sumter County Board of Commissioners, Craig Estep, and they're going to talk about the Sumter County budget. An important issue on that budget is what happens for the people that are sitting here tonight, because they're part of that budget process. So we want to get the right answers. Our August meeting is being canceled. Unfortunately, we don't have this room for that month, and any other room we use, we can't live stream. And on top of that, my granddaughter's getting married, so I wouldn't be here. So we have canceled the August meeting. I got some people that are possible speakers in September and October, but until I confirm them, I wish to not go any further. So without further ado, we're going to go into our presentation. Kenny, you're going to start? You can introduce your great staff. Thank you.
Good evening. So the last time I was here, this place was standing room only with all the good information about the fire department. I wish we had standing room only tonight as well, because we have, I would like to introduce our new chief, because you know, as Chief Edmund Kane did retire, we did promote Brian Twiss as our new fire chief for the Village's Public Safety Department. So with that, he's had many years of service here, 14, come up from the ranks as a fireman, EMT, paramedic, driver engineer, lieutenant, so on and so forth, to now that we love to be able to promote from within. And Brian, we are all expecting great things to come out of the fire department with Brian as our new leader and our new fire chief. So several months ago, Cliff asked if we come out and kind of give the POA an update as to ambulance transport services. So we're happy to go over a lot of information about that. We're happy to come out and speak. As the caveat, there's a presentation on gates from PWAC if you want to go look at that as well. That maybe give you some more information on that item. So, but without further ado, I do want to introduce Chief Brian Twiss. And Chief, it's all yours.
Cliff, where's the best spot to stand for your? Right there. Okay. Just real quick, my name's Brian Twiss. I am the new fire chief for the Villages. Just a little bit of background on myself. I've been in the public service arena for 33 years, 14 of them which are here. Prior to that, I was in law enforcement and the fire service side by side. Kind of a little funny story on that. When I left the law enforcement side, they teased me quite a bit that I was leaving guns and bullets for pillows and blankets. I was okay with that. So I worked my way through the ranks. I started here 14 years ago as an EMT firefighter. Went to paramedic firefighter, and then lieutenant, battalion chief. Last year, I was promoted to the deputy chief of operations, and this year promoted to the fire chief. I'm very excited. Can't wait to get started with the new leadership change, and here to answer any of y'all's questions. So you guys are aware we've got approximately 90 square miles that we cover. We cover in Fruitland Park, Lady Lake, Lake County, Marion County, Sumter County, and now into Leesburg. The current fire stations we have are at the top. The ones on the bottom are the ones that are coming, anticipated. For November of 2023 is Station 46, where I'm sure you guys are aware of that one, down by the Finney area, Warm Springs. Station 48 is anticipated for 2024 of April, and then Station 49 is anticipated for 2025. This is the locations, and I apologize, I'm pretty sure you guys can't see that, so I'll just explain it. There's two stations that are going to be on that 470 corridor, and Station 46, like I said, is going to be south by Finney. So the ambulance update. We have Chief Wannon, who came to us from Hernando County. I can't say enough about him, and I don't mean to make him blush or anything, but he has been phenomenal since he's come here. He's our Division Chief of Operations. He has just put together, the data he's put together with the help of the rest of the admin staff is amazing. So he's going to go over that, and at the end, if you guys have any questions, we'll answer those questions. So Chief Wannon.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. So I just want to say it's. Is this on? Hello?
I didn't do it. All I did was hand it to you.
We could do that one. That's fine. So I just want to say it's an honor and a privilege to come up here. Have any New Yorkers in the room by any chance? Anybody come from New York?
Yeah,
Whereabouts? Long Island?
Staten Island.
Staten Island. Okay. I actually grew up out in Suffolk County, Long Island. Loved it. My dad worked for Grumman Aerospace, taught me a lot of good values growing up, work ethic, everything else. And when I was like 14 years old, I said, you know what? I'm going to join the volunteer fire department. And probably one of the best moves I ever made in my life, because I wanted to be a doctor. And I figured, you know what better way than to actually get with people that respond and actually help people on the scene, and it might develop my career in the future. Well, then I got told we had to move to Florida. So we moved to Spring Hill, and I was picturing Disneyland and palm trees, and it wasn't exactly what it was when I showed up to Spring Hill. And I still live there now. Joined their junior fire department from a very young age, and I was really young looking then, to the point that they're like, who's this kid riding with us? And I quickly got the name Diaper Rash, believe it or not, early on. So that I spent the first 10 years of my life being called Diaper Rash. But I stuck with the system, serving in every role, going all the way up. And I retired out of there after 28 years with Hernando as the division chief of EMS. Met some amazing people. I did 18 years on an aeromedical helicopter and taught EMS at the colleges. Some of the people were on my clinicals. Chief Twiss's wife were actually in clinicals and paramedic school with me. And I've just had an amazing career and met amazing people, especially most of the physicians I've had the honor of working with, and the very people in the back of my ambulance who I've shared some really good stories with. And I learned a lot from everybody throughout my career. So it's an honor that I'm here and able to present to you, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions for you. All right, so this is what we have. Since October 1st, we're currently running a fleet of 13 ambulances, and of that 13 ambulances, we are having 9 that are running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have 1 day car, and then the rest of them are reserve trucks. So those are our station configurations like he showed you on the map. Most of the stations with the heavy call volume that I'll show you are going to be some of our northern stations in the response district based on your population, but we're slowly moving south. My wife actually said, you know, this place is great. I took her up here on a weekend. She goes, we should really sell our house and move up here and become a villager. I said, honey, I don't think we need to. I think before long, I think if we just move into Hernando County, eventually you guys will come and catch up to us, and I'll just automatically overnight become a villager. So let's talk about our demand. The village's demand for your EMS service, and if anybody's ever read data on the charts, what it is remember the old Domino's guarantee, 20 minutes your pizza's free? You remember that? Well, a lot of people measure data by what's called the 90th percentile. It basically means 90% of the time we guarantee we're going to get your service there, or 90% of the time this is the worst it'll ever get. Because we always have a little outliers from that 90 to 100%. So what we're looking at is our call demand, and that's by hour of the day. And if you look at the left line, you can see how many calls are running at any given moment in time in the entire village's district. So for instance, at midnight, you can see we're running pretty much right around 1 to 4, somewhere in that ballpark, at the midnight hour. As we start moving in through the day, you can actually start seeing our call volume start climbing up. So if we pick the middle one right there, the mean average, you can actually see at 7, we have 2 calls going. 8, we're starting to get to 3, maybe 4. Then we start climbing all the way up the graph. On our worst days, we're running about 9 calls in 1 hour. And how many ambulances did I say we had? That means every one of your ambulances is tied up on our worst days, having 9 on the road, which is why we brought in the day car. Because the day car actually fills in that peak gap and actually makes up for that volume when we have those really bad days. So, and as you said, we kind of stay steady all the way through the day. We move from about 8 o'clock in the morning, and we really don't start falling off the cliff until about 10 o'clock. So probably right up to the time when like the town squares start shutting down, that's when our call volume starts falling off for the night. But otherwise, we remain steady throughout the whole day. And you can kind of see it. I'm going to explain why this is so important, why we have to maintain a fleet like we are, because of the call hour and how many calls are going out every hour. So where are our calls located? That's pretty much where the heat map of the majority of the calls are. You could see up in that whole northern end, 40, 41, 51, down towards the bottom where it's less populated, we're getting less and less call volume. Right now, the majority of our calls are up in that top end. And this is going to become very important to how the ambulances move throughout the day and our response time factors as we move through the day in those high call volumes. So, this is why we started ambulance transport in the beginning. From what I understand, you were having some issues with getting a transport ambulance on scene. Is that my understanding as to why, as a community, you said, you know what, we want to do better. We want to be able to save those precious time moments because you know what, at the end of the day, all you have is time. And I would give anything to spend more time with some of my loved ones I've lost along the way. And some of the ways we do that is getting them into the hands of a doctor as soon as possible. So when it comes to response times, it's very important that we track and maintain and try to keep those to bring you to a doctor to try to save your life. So our ambulance response times, as you can see, worst case scenario, that means, like I said, we had 9 calls out at one time, so we had no ambulances left. So if we have no ambulances left, those ambulances are usually clearing a hospital and traveling from, say, UF Villages or, say, UF Leesburg. So during those times, we may have extended delays for those really busy times, but for the most part, if you look at the mean line, you're getting an ambulance in about 8 minutes, a transport truck in 8 minutes on average. That is incredible, and that is absolutely incredible to where you were maybe just 6 months ago. So 8 minutes. Anybody that has a medical background, I know we got some doctors, nurses in the room, and everything else. Remember when the brain starts to die? And you have a stroke or a heart attack or the heart muscle starts to die? Yeah, 8 to 10 minutes. So if we can get a transport unit there in 8 minutes, that's the difference. We're buying you time. Now, because our engines are also ALS, they have the same equipment that an ambulance has, every bit of it. Cardiac monitors, trained paramedics, drugs. We patch those gaps during busy times by rolling the fire engines out and actually starting paramedic treatment on the scene. And by doing that, on average, we're shaving 1 to 2 minutes off by having the closest unit go, which is that fire engine or that ladder truck or that battalion chief that just happened to be in the area who has the same equipment as an ambulance. This is a great light-saving intervention, and it's a wonderful thing that we run fire and EMS that are both advanced life support units. That's how we save time, that's how we save heart, and that's how we save brain. So, there's a lot of factors that go into turning an ambulance around, and what keeps our ambulances on the road. Remember when I told you earlier about those we're running concurrent calls, that some days we're running 5 calls an hour? Well, a lot of factors go into that. If we start running a lot of calls in the same block of time, we have to transport to a hospital, we have to successfully transfer over to the staff, clean up the bed, restock the truck, and get back on the road and drive back to the station. So, if anything interferes, those are all times to get that truck back into zone. So the faster we can actually offload a patient, the faster we can get back into the response zone and respond appropriately. Now, it looks like a lot, but consider this is a nationwide problem. Essentially, the whole planet fell apart during COVID-19. Have you tried waiting on parts lately? Waiting for a car to be ordered? It trickles down into every aspect of what we do now. Having the world shut down for 2 years shut down everything, including nursing schools, paramedic schools, ambulance manufacturers and equipment manufacturers. So you have a lot of people during COVID-19 that said, you know what, I'm so overworked during COVID-19, I don't want to be a nurse anymore. And they literally walked away from their professions. Physicians did the same thing. They walked away. They said, I'm not doing this. Well, if you have that much of the workforce walk away from a job and you don't have any new people coming up to replace those positions, now you don't have enough staff. That, and it also gave rise to at-home jobs. So a lot of your medical professionals are now working from home over the internet in those type of jobs. So not only did we lose those to retirees and those not coming out of nursing school, but now we also have the rise of new industries which also take away from patient care. So this is a nationwide problem that everybody's facing. But the good news is the schools are wide open and we're quickly getting back and pushing medical providers out. So it is getting better. Over the last year, I have watched a dramatic change occur with hospital transfer times. Coming from Hernando County, face the same issues. We had big meetings about how do we deal with this, and we all got very creative in some of our solutions. And the best part was we actually entered into partnerships with the hospital and actually work with their senior leadership teams and say, what can we do to help you? And that model has worked very well, and it has worked here in the villages. We have cut hospital times almost in half in the matter of the last 3 months. So it is working, and I love the relationship we have with all of our partners, with UF, HCA, and Advent, specifically in our immediate area. So these are the current times. Remember I said 90th percentile is the worst it'll ever be. And as you can see down the side, those are typically the turnaround delays. So on those really bad days where we're running 9 calls, let's just say you go into the village's hospital. So we're running that call, takes about 20 minutes, response to the hospital, and we're being held there for about 39 minutes, worst case scenario, and then we got to get back to zone. So now you're talking about a 2-hour turnaround for that ambulance. And that's where a lot of those issues came in. That's why we have more ambulances on the road and why we have those relationships to make things better with the hospital. So it is getting better. So what does a fireman do in a day? Well, under certain things that we do as firefighters, most of the big consulting firms that come in to analyze a county or a fire department or a district for that matter, they pay a lot of money for people to run data. And one thing they've actually said across the board is how do you keep and maintain a healthy firefighting force, a healthy EMS response? How much of a day should that ambulance be tied up in a fire-based EMS system? And what they came out with is 30% of your day in a 24-hour period should be tied up running emergency calls. So they're saying about a third of your day, about 8 hours, 7.2 hours, is tied up running emergency calls. Now, there's things that we have to do. Anybody hear of ISO, Insurance Service Organization? They have mandates as a fire department, and we get a rating based on how well we perform to provide protection. And part of that rating goes into insurance discounts. So in order to maintain our ISO as a fire department, they come in and they analyze our fire department and they measure a lot of metrics. One of which is if our firefighters aren't out every single day doing 2 hours of fire training, we get penalized. And that goes against our ISO. If they don't get in at least an hour of documented physical training to keep themselves healthy and shape. Cancer, heart disease, major killers in the fire service. We stress our bodies out from a sleep cycle to 100% effort in a matter of 10 seconds when we're racing to that fire or racing to that cardiac arrest call. Puts a lot of stress on us. So they want us to maintain healthy. So we have an hour. We got to feed them. They're there for 24 hours. I know about you, but I if I was one of those ones that were, caught in the snow mountains, it wouldn't take me long to, maybe consider other food sources around there if I was alone on a mountain. But for the most part, we got to feed them, keep them healthy and energized. Vehicle checks. We got to maintain our equipment. We got to clean it. We got to decon it. Check the oil, make sure everything's healthy. It takes about 2 hours to go through the station to clean it all out, to keep it safe and clean, and the ambulance and the vehicles. We average about 20-minute return trip back to the zone from any particular hospital. If we run 6 calls a day, we're running about 2 hours of just returning. And then we also have other tasks. We got the reports to finish, paperwork to file, medical QA, QI. And then, we allow them 6 hours of sleep at night, a broken sleep, because as you saw in the chart, we're running 2 to 4 calls every single night, which means that ambulance crew and that engine crew is up every 2 hours It's like having a newborn. They get about 6 hours of sleep and 24 after running all day long. So we got to let them rest a little bit. And total time, 24 hours, and then they go home. So where are we at? Remember I told you 30% was healthy. Well, over 24 hours, anything over 30% starts cutting into those other things. And what do you think the first thing to go is once we start getting into there? Sleep. We've run ambulance crews all night without any rest in 24 hours. It's equivalent to actually being drunk on duty when you run that busy. So, anybody been awake for 24 hours? It's rough, especially when you're running emergency services and fires. So some of our North trucks, like I said, 440, 441, 443, 451. Those are busy 24 hours a day. And where does all your call volume happen, for the most part? During the day, right? And then you kind of lay off at night. Even at night, round the clock, they're busy. Where are we at during the day? That right there, all the way down the column, they spend 45% of their day, a 12-hour day, 6 hours physically on a call. And that doesn't even count to all the other things they have to do. Those crews, a lot of them don't eat during the day. They're grabbing stuff quickly on the road, going from one call to the next to help save lives. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to my fire chief's area of expertise, which is on the administrative side, to talk about ambulance billing. But if you got any questions after, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions, but it's been an honor to talk to you today.
Sorry, I'm not one for a podium. It's going to be hard to follow. You can see he's done a whole lot more public speaking than I have. So for our ambulance transport billing, just a flow chart here to show you the VPSD ambulance provides the care and services, an incident report, patient care report we generate, and then it goes to Digitech, which Digitech takes the incident and patient care report, sorts the bills versus the non-billable stuff, and then it goes to it stays with Digitech to bill the insurance carrier, and then, of course, once they pay out, we receive the revenue. Last but not least, I wouldn't be a good fire chief if I didn't tell you guys we're hiring, and I do have applications in the back of the room. Any questions? Oh, Cliff, they told me you're not allowed to ask questions.
I have a couple questions. First of all, I believe it's Station 42 is in Marion County.
Yes, sir.
And you guys actually don't do much in Marion County because it's not part of this whole program. I see ambulances and fire trucks, and they're all in Marion County. So my question is, where does that ambulance at Station 42 actually go? Because since you guys have taken over, I have not seen the ambulance at one residence in Marion County. So I'm curious as to, it's sitting at a fire station on Belle Meade, but where does it actually go?
A lot of times it's getting pulled to either Station 43 area or 40s area to help cover the call load, because of the call load isn't as extreme in that area. So like I said, a lot of time it's pulled to 40 or 43, and then we have to backfill with other trucks.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief and Deputy. My question is, you mentioned that during peak times you have 9 calls and you have 9 ambulances. Let's say you have a multi-collision catastrophe, and can you take more than 1 call or person per ambulance, is my first question. And then my second question is just why did you start at 440 for the? Why didn't you start at 1, 2, 3? So I was just curious.
Okay.
On that.
The first question, yes, we can take more than 1 patient if we need to. Remember, we're sending a lot of times for those critical calls, we're sending fire trucks with them, and we have paramedics on the fire truck. Then they can ride in to the hospital in the ambulance. to help take care of other patients. We try to keep it to one ALS patient, advanced life support patient, but if we had to in a situation like that, absolutely. And then why did we start at 440? That had nothing to do with me or the previous chief. We're dispatched by Sumter County, so they have their set of numbers, and they gave us a set of numbers that we could number our stations. That way, nothing overlapped. And we try to do the same with surrounding counties like Lake County, Marion County, to make sure that our units in this area aren't numbered the same as theirs, because then if we have that mass casualty incident, and for example, Rescue 440 comes up on the radio and they've got a Rescue 440, it kind of gets confusing.
My husband was just at the standalone ER. Turned out he had a broken neck. And so when the doctor came in, he said, I called an ambulance. We're taking you to Shands in Gainesville. And it made me think, you know, I should probably put down where he had to go there because he had such a serious injury. But it made me think of, if I needed an ambulance, what's the default for you? Or do you ask the family first where they want to go? Or do you just automatically go? That's my first question. And my second one is, there seems to be so many mental health issues. Do you respond to those, or to the police?
Okay, the first question, yes, we can take them wherever they would like to go if they were to ask. However, if they have like a critical, life-threatening injury, we're going to take them to the closest receiving facility, closest hospital that can treat that type of situation that they have going on. And then your second question, on the mental health, it just depends. The Sheriff's Department does respond, but a lot of times we also respond. And if it's a law enforcement side mental health issue, they're obviously going to be there first. They'll call us, and then we will transport the person to live streams or wherever the case may be. It just depends where they're at in the county, whether they go to Marion County or to Leesburg.
Okay, I guess I'm okay. My question is about the vehicles themselves. Is there a way of outsourcing those things as far as the cleaning, the maintenance, and all that stuff to save on some time? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll try to. I think I understand what you're saying. You're talking about as far as after the call?
Yeah, in other words, you got to maintain the vehicle, right?
Yes. As far as maintenance of the vehicle, that is done here locally. So, I mean, we're not sending multiple vehicles out at a time, like to get oil changes or anything like that. But as far as cleaning of the vehicles, the crews do it as soon as they get done with the call.
Okay, so it is getting maintained outside.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
certain garages and so forth around the area.
Right. The garage is over in Sumter County.
Oh, okay.
Or excuse me, right here in Sumter.
Okay.
Anybody else over here?
Thank you. I'm wondering, as far as if someone falls on the floor and you're called to do a lifting them up, is there so many times they can call before you say, no, we can't answer?
No, ma'am.
Is there?
No, ma'am. You call, come.
Okay.
While he's gone,
Well, just curious if we're going to continue to own the vehicles now that Sumter County is controlling them.
Own them as far as the fire department here?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so
The
that didn't
only
change
thing-
with the recent election that we had.
No, that won't affect it. Will we continue to own the vehicles, or will Sumter County own them? Yeah.
And how long does one of those vehicles last?
Ooh.
a long
You had to
time,
ask
I
that
hope.
question.
A long time, I hope.
You had to ask that question. It depends what you're talking about. As far as fire trucks, the ambulances, well, we would like to get several years out of them, but since we got into the transport service at October 1st, we have some ambulances that already have 20,000 miles on them. So we are already looking at replacement plan for those vehicles, because we're going to try to get as many miles out of them, but we need to have more vehicles coming. And with the backlog of ambulances, we've got to go ahead and start ordering them. That way we have them when we get the vehicles. We've already gotten to a point trying to be the best steward of our resources, that we're already moving some of those ambulance down to the south where it's slower, and bringing some of the lower mileage ones up to the north.
I have a question. On one of the charts you had all the hospitals listed that you go to. I was wondering, is the Village is the one that gets most of the calls?
Yeah.
Okay, that's important. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Chief, the village is expanding. What happens when you overlap Sumter County's fire department?
We work wonderful with them.
No, I see you're having 3 new fire departments. Were they responsible for that area one time?
I'm sure at one time they were, but now with the villages owning that property, we're going to cover it.
Well, when you run into them like right now, the fire department they own at Coleman or whatever, what happens when you two meet each other?
We don't have any issues. We work with them.
You're expanding, and I want to know what happens in Sumter County. Do they back off?
If it's village's own property, then yes, we're taking over that area.
Okay,
as far as
what okay, what happens to Sumter County? Are they helping pay for the new fire departments, firehouses?
Not the village's ones, no.
Okay.
So, as you know, we have a district, the map, the boundary map. Those are the areas that we cover. We have mutual aid agreements with Sumter County if we need help. They will come to our aid if we need them. Likewise, we'll come to their aid if they need us. So right now, we're working off a 1-year grant with Sumter County. They fund us on the operational side. And then going forward, we're working with Sumter County to go forward with that type of same grant opportunity based on a percentage of parcels within Sumter County, and they will fund our operational dollars that way. So if that means we bring on 1 more fire station, 2 more fire stations, their operational dollars, that's going to come from Sumter County based on that percentage.
That answers my question.
There
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask, when we call 911 for an emergency, while we're talking to that operator, have they already contacted you to come? And secondly, what can we do at the home to make it easier for you or whoever responds?
As they're gathering that information from you, yes, they're already dispatching units. As soon as they gather enough information to know what's needed, they'll start dispatching us, and then they'll continue to gather information. As far as what can you do for us, the biggest thing that would help tremendously when the paramedics get on scene is a medication list. There's a lot of times where it could expedite. We want to know as much as possible, and if that person's unconscious, we may stay there a couple extra seconds or minutes trying to gather critical information from you guys. So if you have a medication list, and then if you have like major stuff that's happened, if you put it on that list, that's a great help for us.
You need to get a vial of life that the Sumter County Sheriff Department puts out. Unfortunately, we usually have them at the meeting, but we ran out of the slips that go with it that you put your medical information on. I apologize. The person that was in charge of that sort of let down. We will get more and have them next month, but that's really, really important that you get the vial of life.
Anybody else?
Up here, Chair. Here, Chair.
This is in regard to the defibrillator. We have those boxes in our neighborhood, and supposedly an EMC is going to come and work with it. We just call 911. How does this dovetail with the ambulance?
When you call 911 for like a cardiac arrest, they're going to activate if there's an AD community in that area. That's citizens in your area that have been trained to use that defibrillator and to do CPR. So they're going to start it. We're going to follow right behind them. We're going to take over at that point. We're going to continue the CPR or whatever the case may be and transport the person to the hospital.
I just wanted to respond to the Vial of Life thing. The Rotary meeting that I go to had a speaker Wednesday talking about, the Apple Watch. The things that Apple Watch can do is amazing, and everything is on there. Your med list, everything. And then the speaker also said, as a secondary thing, he had a spreadsheet of every surgery he had, every medication he took. So he said, if you always have that with you, everybody would be equipped to know enough about your situation.
That's good information to know, and we can definitely look into. I don't know how we would get that information from your Apple Watch, but it's definitely something we can look into.
Many of us live alone, okay? We're the only one in the house. Say we have a medical emergency. We're able to call 911, but we can't get to the front door to unlock it. What happens?
We have the ability to get in. We have I'm going to refer to it as a master key.
Don't you watch enough TV?
May cause a little bit of damage, but if we know you're in there and you've called and need help, we're going to get into you.
What?
We try to do the least amount of damage as possible, but if there's a situation where you don't have a box on your house or you don't have a neighbor with a key or anything like that, as long as we know you're in there or have a really good indication you're in there, we'll get in.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the box on our house?
There's some people that have little, you can get them at like Lowe's and stuff, a little digital keypad. And we also have the residential Knox boxes. We can get you that information after the meeting. But what happens is when you call and let us know, either you're going to give us the code for that box that's on your garage, or if it's a residential Knox box, we have keys to get into it.
So a key open or a keyboard that opens the garage door would be sufficient?
Yeah, if you can give us the code to get in that way, and your door going into from the house to the garage is open, we can get in.
If you now live in an area of the villages that has more elderly, what allowances have been made because of that?
As far as ambulances?
Yeah, well, sickness and emergencies.
We have increased the ambulances, like Chief Wanham was saying, from we initially started out with 9, and now we've put on a day truck to help with the gaps. Prior to that, there was not as much coverage with the previous service that was here. Does that answer your question?
So now there is more coverage for those areas.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's
A
what
lot
I'm
more
asking.
coverage. Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
With the railroad chemical spill in Ohio, it's been on the news. What does the villages have as far as plans if the railroad down, like, say, on 466, a car would go off and there'd be chemicals?
Kind of a couple part answer to that. The railway is in Sumter County. They would actually handle the issue. They also have a hazmat team, and we would back them up and assist them for whatever needs to be done, whether it be supporting them with firefighting efforts or whether it might be ambulance needs they have, and we would support them. Does that answer?
How would they notify people if there was a spill and flumes? There's no sirens. How do you notify people to evacuate?
We have a very advanced communication center, and they have what they call reverse 911, so they can actually, instead of you calling them, they can call and put out a broadcast. Does Sumter County have a website that tells about disasters? All 3 counties do. You got in trouble.
I just want to say one thing. Since October 1st, when they started transporting, 5 months, almost 5 months, 5.5 months, the POA has not got one negative phone call about their service. Before that time, we got many. I used to get 10 or 15 a week. So we have not had one which is a huge, huge improvement. So you guys are actually doing the right thing.
Thank you,
and
sir.
we really appreciate it. You're our heroes. You're my hero anyways.
Thank you. And if you guys have questions after tonight, please feel free to reach out to us. If I don't have the answer, I'll find the answer for you and get back with you on it.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you guys. I really
you.
appreciate it. POA appreciates it. Hopefully, Chief, we'll see you many times.
I'll shake your hand too. Cliff.
Okay, and I want to say thank you guys for coming. We got donuts and coffee in the back, and hopefully we'll see you next month for the hospital presentation.